Hello yogis, and welcome back to yet another installment of the Mantra and Movement series. Our mantra today is going to be Om Vardhanam Namah, so I'm very excited to talk a little bit about that in a second. As for our props for a physical practice, we'll use one cushion. You can also use a block instead, and maybe a blanket if you have something to cushion your knees. Could also be a big towel as usual. And before we lie down on our backs, I want to show you the mudra that we're going to start with today, and it is mandala mudra. So what you're going to try to do is let your palms face up and interlace your fingers in a way that it almost forms sort of like a basket, an area that feels like a connection space. So come lie down, let your head rest, and maybe form this mudra, mandala mudra, an offering to the universe, a Buddhist mudra, supposed to represent our proposition to the universe. And this mudra is very fitting to our mantra today, Om Vardhanam Namah, meaning something like, I nourish the universe and the universe nourishes me. So the mantra is in many ways referring to the idea of give and receive without an expectation, without a goal, or the idea of reaching anything through it, but rather just moving through a practice and acknowledging the natural flow, not holding on to anything, but always being ready to offer so that we can create space to receive whatever is new, whatever comes into our lives. So I'd like to invite you now to just watch your breath and maybe even deepen the breath and notice how that already represents sort of a giving and receiving. Right? The inhalation versus the exhalation. We're letting air go to receive new air. And then you can open your eyes and pull your knees towards you and just circle your knees a couple of times, in and out. And I like to really move my shins here. So as I move my knees closer, I might just let my feet come a little bit wider. Feels a little weird, but I really get into my outer hips that way. And then from there, we're going to try and open the knees a little bit wider and maybe hold on to the feet from the outside. If that doesn't work, you can hold on wherever you feel more comfortable. I like to do this a little bit dynamically, so I'm going to rock side to side as I hold my feet. I'm going to keep my shoulders soft, and if you feel like you want to remove the cushion behind your head, you can do that too. Hold a moment here, find stillness, feel into this shape. And then just part your feet to both sides, arriving in a happy baby position. Still, again, inviting movement, maybe side to side with one leg lengthening or extending, and then eventually again finding stillness. Feeling into the individual sensations that almost form like a cloud of sensation as a whole. Feeling into your lower back and then holding onto the backs of your thighs to roll up. If you feel like it, you can also come through one side. And then scoot back on your mat. See if you can clear your space. Make sure you have a little bit of space in front of you. Take your hands behind you, palms facing towards you or away from you, and start lifting your hips up. And the first couple times I'm doing this, I usually just play around with it. I'm like scooting my hips way back, lifting them up, but trying almost like a little game not to touch the floor below. All right, so I'm going to keep my hips away from the ground as much as I can, always having an eye on my shoulders. So if you have any type of like shoulder injury or even a bunch of tension, just don't move as high. See what works for you and your body. And then after a couple of rounds, maybe just swinging forward and back, lengthening the legs as I swing the hips behind me and then lifting them up. And eventually when your hips are up, see if you can walk your hands forward, balancing on your toes, bringing your prayer in front of your heart, dropping the knees and then lifting up into kneeling. Camel pose, just with your arms extended for a breath out, back into your squat, hands behind you, and walk back on your mat. Lifting back up into your reverse table, sweeping the hips behind you, and then coming back up and walking your hands towards your feet. And I think I'm going to do this about 2 more times here. So coming onto your feet, you're waking up the whole of your body. Knees down, lift your arms up, coming into a back bend, reaching arms behind you, hands back into prayer. See if you can lift your knees up one by one. Then bring your hands behind you and climb back into your back bend. Lifting up, reverse table, sweep your hips back, maybe without touching the mat. Lift back up and crawl your hands towards your feet one more time into your squat. Holding there, dip the knees, lift up, back bend. And then return back onto your heels, and this time stay there for a breath or two. And from there, we're going to make our way into all fours. So moving right on in our flow. Bring your blanket under your knees, just as a support. If you don't have one, you don't need one. And hands right under the shoulders. We're going to start by lifting off the knees, maybe just 2 centimeters / inches. And for some reason, I really like to keep this with like a pulsing moment in between. So I find it very hard to be just static here. So we're going to do this twice more. I'm going to add a pillow between my ankles, just because that gives me a little bit more symmetry in my body. And again, you can just pulse up and down a little bit to make this more bearable for your center. And then just relaxing in between sequences, in between those little couple of second poses. And then bring your knees down the last time, soften here. I like to just move a little bit my hips side to side, my spine, my head, my neck, whatever feels like it might be tense. And then starting to lift that right hand and sweep it over to the left, and then lift the left hand and sweep it over to the right as I lower my hips towards my heels. So I'm trying to slice the air with one arm, that might be the best description, and waving it to the other side a couple of times. So getting into a side bend on all fours, a relatively dynamic one. And then walking my hands all the way over to one side. I'm starting with my left here and leaning into my right hip. So I get that nice long stretch on the right side of my torso. Maybe bending into that left elbow. And then eventually you could sweep the left arm up and just feel into the whole chest. Maybe reaching the left hand behind the back. And then both hands back down, walk back through center and arrive on the other side. So this time your left arm is crossing over to the right. You're going to potentially bend into that right elbow as you lean into your left hip. You feel again that length. And potentially an invitation to lift your right hand up, twisting open gently, and then eventually you might want to reach the right hand behind you. So you're twisting more from your torso, less from your arm. Both hands back down, find your way back to center. Any movement that feels good here before you dive into a short child's pose, balasana. The classic symbolical posture for offering, for bowing down, moving into a puppy pose where your hips are right over your knees and your chest is melting towards the floor for a moment. And so I'm offering myself to this practice, to this moment, and in this way to the universe, the space around me. I'm offering my attention, my awareness, my focus. Climbing up into all fours, and then this next time you're going to step your right foot forward. And I really like, especially for the first lunge of my practice, I really like to just kind of get into it through movement again. So we're going to keep a little bit of a flow today, right? The idea of give and receive, always moving. There's never really just quiet, and there's no grasping or gripping. Maybe find a reverse prayer, or you can hold onto your elbows behind the back, leaning into the front hip. Keep some engagement around your navel. Move your ears side to side, your head a little bit around, shoulders heavy. And just take a breath or two before you tuck your left toes under and lift that back knee up. And again, finding softness here in your hips and your legs before you walk your left foot in and then lift the left leg up. Take flight here. In this weird position, your hands still behind the back. If you need to hold your elbows instead, you can. See if you can come into a very straight upper back and then step it back into your high lunge. Dip the knee down, back into low lunge, reach for the front foot and shift your hips back. This might be too much. You can keep your hands connected to the mat if this is too hard for you to do. Absolutely fine. All we want is a little bit of a sense of space around the back of that thigh. Maybe gazing forward on your mat to rebend into that front knee and then step it back into all fours. Rounding the spine, just for a moment, finding any movement that helps you provide softness in the body, and then stepping that left foot forward. Leaning into the thigh, again, a couple of movements, anything that feels appropriate at this point. And then find your very solid lunge position, hands behind the back. You can bring your palms to touch, or you can hold your elbows. Find a connection. If you have a prayer, again, it's this idea of devotion. In yoga, the term is bhakti yoga, devoting yourself to your practice. Lifting the right knee up, if that feels good. Maybe step it a little closer before you take flight this time. And then see if you can really move your elbows back, just in order to get your upper back, again, straight or your chest wide. And that standing leg is very strong. The hips are about level. You feel very solid here, but you have space. Then step it back softly, arriving back in your lunge, dropping the knee. Reaching your hands forward and your hips back. Maybe finding that foot and pulling your toes towards you gently. And take a moment there, and maybe you can elongate your spine for a moment before you lean back into your front knee. Step back into all fours. Find any movement that you like. And then take a couple of breaths. Find back into the rhythm of your breathing, that balance between giving and receiving. Om Vardhanam Namah. Shift your hips back into down dog. Again, any movement that feels nourishing, right? So don't forget to give to yourself, to nourish yourself so that you can nourish the universe. Straighten the spine, move your heels, or one heel at a time if that's a good thing to do right now, or stay still. Sometimes just picking the intuitive path is the best. And then bow forward softly. Eventually, with your hands on your knees, if you can come halfway up and then come into standing. Finding a comfortable standing position for a moment. Again, reverse prayer or holding elbows. Softly falling over your thighs, but then establishing again that connection to your chest, your collarbones widening. The feet have equal weight in them, right? So all four corners of the feet have the equal weight. Lengthening the chest forward, but again, navel towards thighs. And eventually maybe dropping the head, releasing the arms down. Paw your way forward on your mat into another down dog. Shift your hips up and high. From here, we're going to walk the feet closer with the inhalation, lifting the right leg up behind us, kicking into space, and then exhale, step the right foot forward. Land on your mat, take space, bring your left heel down for a warrior one position. So as if you're on two train tracks. See if you can bring your hips about level towards front of the mat. Very strong in your back leg, pressing through the outside edge of that left foot. And just take a moment of breath for the upper body before you come back into your mudra. Mandala mudra, reaching forward. And I know this is tough. We're not going to hold it for too long. But we're going to try to establish that super strong foundation. So again, pressing through the soles of your feet. And then with a little bit of lightness, coming back down to the mat, lifting back heel and reaching right arm up, twist open towards the right. And as you exhale, reach your right arm between your legs and straighten the legs. Inhale again, rotating up, open chest. Exhale, reach right arm under your legs. Soften the head, soften the gaze. Again, inhale, rotating up, waving that right arm behind you. Exhale, reach down and out. And then both hands down. And see if you can bring one knee down, and from there, so the left knee goes down, the inside of the left foot comes to the mat. Careful with your knee here. Going to find your way into a ninja pose where your left knee is lifted, hands maybe touch, so you're balancing here, and your gaze could go over towards that left foot in that case. Slowly bring your hands back down, just switching sides now. You're bending into the left knee and the right leg is long. Maybe gaze towards your right foot for a moment. Find balance, keep balance, reestablish balance, right? So notice that any moment is movement, right? So there's no real issue with not succeeding each moment in life because it's still moving anyway. So stepping back into down dog when you're ready from your lunge. Shifting hips up and high again, establishing space, a couple of breaths, appreciating that rhythm, the very unique rhythm, and then sweeping left leg up and exhale, step it forward, lunge position, right foot to the right, bring the heel down, climb up, and that's where we pause again. Hips are moving towards front of the mat, back leg is strong, arms are soft, shoulders heavy, soft neck. From there, when you're ready, you can just start with your mudra again. Reach your hands forward, lean forward, still anchoring through the back foot, rooting into the mat, through that back heel. Long spine, long neck, you're gazing down towards the floor and then dropping your hands down, lifting the back heel back up, shifting into a lunge position. This time you're twisting open to the left. And as you exhale, you reach the left hand under, stretching the legs. Inhale, open twist. Exhale, wave the arm underneath between your thighs. And then one more time, inhale to twist open. And exhale to reach. Take that last moment here to feel the length in your legs, that space you're creating there. And also that devotion to your practice again. Bending into the front knee, dropping the back knee to the mat, and then swiveling over into your ninja. Left knee bent, right leg long. See if you can gaze towards that active right foot. So you don't want to just lock the right knee. You want to stay active in the leg. Hands down to the mat to switch position. Climb your way to the right, lifting the left toes. Inhale there. Gazing to the foot if that feels all right in your neck for the balance. Hands down, climb your way back towards front of the mat, into your lunge, swivel around, knee down just for a moment, and then lift up, downward dog. All right, couple of breaths here, feeling both sides of your body. Feeling, again, the rhythm of the breath. The never-ending flow, no matter how subtle, there is always movement. And we're going to come down onto our bellies here, resting our forehead down. Pausing for a moment, taking a couple of breaths, coming into stillness, appreciating the movement within. And maybe bringing back our mantra, Om Vardhanam Namah. I give to the universe and the universe gives back to me. I nourish to be nourished. Climb up onto your elbows, bend into your left foot, and then potentially turn towards your right. See if you can find a way to hold on to that left foot with the right hand. And that might not be for you, and that's okay. You don't have to do this with your hand. You can just keep your knee bent as is. If you do have it bent, pull the foot a little bit closer, very gently guiding the knee into a quadriceps stretch, and then exhale to rest back down again. Finding that pause moment over and over again. Bending into the right knee, hold onto the foot, pull the foot a little bit closer towards you, lift up, peel the left shoulder open gently. Very solid in your right elbow. And again, another moment here to breathe through the heat, through the challenge. Release, pause. And from here, you're going to slowly come onto your right side. So see if you can lie down on your right. I'm going to get rid of my blanket for a moment. And I'm going to try to line up my body relatively long in one line. And then from there, just bend my lower part of the body, if you will, and just so that I can see my feet. And I'm going to take my upper hand, which is my left, behind my head. Bend my knees a little bit and try to move my right knee up and down. And as I move it down, I lift my foot. So it looks kind of funny. The next time I lift up, I take my head with me and then lift only the foot. And inhale, take the head with me, lift the knee. Exhale, knee down, lift the foot. So internal, external rotation of the hip with a little bit of a side core strengthening aspect to it. And maybe understanding a little bit that principle of contraction and release. So we're going to release now as we stretch out on the mat, feeling that nice nourishing sense of relaxation, of length. Rolling onto the back, and then from here, pull your knees into your chest for a moment. Take a moment of love for your lower back. Maybe extend your legs up, hold behind the thighs, move your feet around. Anything that feels like giving back to yourself right there. And then right to the other side, roll towards your left. Long line of energy. Bring your knees in front, bend your knees a little bit. And tuck your toes, or rather, flex your feet, look towards your toes, and then hold on to your head with the right hand very gently. And it's a little bit like a clam situation. You're opening the knee to lift your head gently, and then you're internally rotating knee towards knee, foot lifts. So you moving with the lifting knee, and you're releasing with the lifting foot. Very nice thing to do for your glutes too. And feeling this shape more from within than anything else. Right? That's the nice thing about this kind of unusual movement. Lie back down, stretch it out. Really long, feet moving away from fingertips. And from here, we're going to roll back onto our belly. Now, slide your hands back, come into either an upward facing dog or just a cobra pose. Leaning back into maybe an abbreviated cat pose, so rounding the spine, and from there coming back onto your heels for a moment. Sit on your cushion, just some elevation to give your knees a break. Take a moment to settle here. Maybe some head rolls if that feels comfortable in your neck. Really gently coming into the more subtle part of this class. Moving from the large towards the small, if you will, from the macro to the micro. And I'm going to sit next to my feet on the right and then lean over to the left. So I hope you can see that. Both of my feet are on my left side. My hip is on the right, and I'm doing a side bend towards my feet. And just reach, find another moment of length here for that right side of your body. Reach back up and then twist away from your feet, so twist towards the right. I always like to include a little bit of head movement, but you don't have to. Back to center, and we're going to just move the feet to the right this time. So swing them over, sit on the left side of your feet, lift your left arm up, and then over exhale into your side bend. Noticing the space all the way up towards your armpits. Heavy in your hips. Reach your arms up, exhale, twist over towards the left. And again, a little bit of head movement if that's appropriate. And then move back through center, hands on your knees. Lift your hips up so you can sit up on something or come into your Shavasana. So this is really something I recommend for every practice. But is Shavasana. I'm going to do a seated meditation instead. I'm going to come into Mandala Mudra one more time, so webbing my fingers into each other. But again, you can do this lying down. And if you just feel like you deserve a break, and we all do, then please go ahead and come into the most comfortable position on your back. Wherever you are, see if you can let go of your breath for a moment. And just acknowledging yourself in space, the rhythm of your breath. the whole of your being. And the ability to witness, and the ability to participate in your mind and in your thinking. Om Vardhanam Namah. I nourish the universe and the universe nourishes me. Thank you very much, yogis. Stay in this relaxation, in this meditation for as long as you like. And I see you next time.